We've touched on a couple of topics over the last few weeks that involve people being shadow banned, as well as people being permanently banned. That seems to be, well, the theme of this channel, to be honest, so it's understandable. But what if I was to tell you that a lot of these creators don't understand the extent of what can happen if your hardware ID gets banned? Well, I'm here to tell you a little story about the hardware ID bans and how they can actually affect more than just the hardware these creators believe it affects. And somehow I believe this ties in with the fact that Zlaner moves house very often, with the fact that he has upgraded PCs about 6 times in the past 2 years, and the fact that he's had a flood in a house as well as being robbed at gunpoint without any news reports. What if I was to tell you the reason the Zlaner seems to have something going on every time there's a ban wave could be linked to the fact that he has been given the heads up that a ban wave is coming, and he's fully aware that a spoofer just won't cut it this time round. Now, we're going to go into quite a lot of detail today. This detail and information is fairly new to me, but I want to give it to you guys as quick as possible so you understand exactly what we're talking about. Everybody upgrades parts from their PC if they've been hardware ID banned. They go for the internals of the PC tower: GPU, CPU, motherboard, SSD, hard drive. What? What's a hard drive?
I don't even know what a hard drive is either.
All of these parts tend to get replaced by these creators when they've been hardware ID banned, and this is how they avoid getting favourite accounts permabanned if they've been permabanned already due to a hardware ID ban. Now, what if I was to tell you that those components can be hardware ID banned, and most definitely do get hardware ID banned when this occurs, but there's so much more to it? What if I was to tell you that as much as a mouse can have a hardware ID ban? So these guys could go out and spend another 5 grand, 10 grand on a PC tower, only to be hardware ID banned still due to the hardware ID of a keyboard, a mouse, or some other component that's connected to the PC when the hardware ID ban hits. Crazy, isn't it? These guys could end up having further shadow bans due to the hardware ID of their mouse or monitor or anything that's attached to the PC being detected, even if they've upgraded their full PC tower. This is only the tip of the iceberg, and as you can see here, you can see that the keyboard, mice and other pointing devices have been highlighted, and you can see their property hardware IDs, and it's clear right there that these devices have a hardware ID that can be caught up in a hardware ID ban. So it's clear and evident that these devices can be caught with a hardware ID ban, and I'm saying that a lot of creators out there didn't know about this. Now, this is information, by the way, that I didn't really want to put out, but there's a big reason I'm putting it out today, and that's because I've actually sat down and calculated all of the different times, the time frames each time as well, that Zlaner has taken away from his streaming when there's been a ban wave. It ties in so nicely. Now let's dive into the real detail behind these hardware ID bans, and let's talk about the fact that it's not just the hardware that can be banned. So what you've got to remember is that every device actually has a digital footprint. As I've already mentioned, it doesn't have to just be the CPU, mobile or GPU, or even the peripherals. Everything has to pass data, and it all leaves behind a digital footprint. And as far as I'm aware, if Ricochet actually works at a kernel level, as they specify they do, it knows what your device's gateway device is. It can request information on that device, so before even turning on a VPN, software or hardware via router, it'll be able to pass some of that information. So for example, if you were to open a command prompt on your PC right now, type in ipconfig and read the IP of the gateway device, which is your router, and then run arp-a, and you'll see a MAC, which is the media access code for the gateway device, your router. So this MAC code is unique to every device. It's the manufacturer code plus serial number of the device. Now you may be wondering how this router situation is even remotely linked to a hardware ID ban. Well, imagine this: an ARP request can be made, information on all devices collected and then stored in a database. They get a new PC and a new ARP request nets the same MAC address, which equals the same user on a new computer. Now imagine all of this information being available to the likes of Zlaner and other streamers as well. How they will get their hands on that information is unclear, but you've got to remember there are people out there who don't know what a hard drive is.
I don't even know what a hard drive is either.
But they will have people who operate their computers for them. I don't know, maybe they need their computer optimized by somebody, an outsourced company, or maybe they have someone working for them and who is fully aware of these things and does all of this for them. Whoever does optimize their PC, whoever does replace their hardware or upgrade their PCs for them, could quite well be in the loop of everything that's going on based on this information, if in fact it can be tied in with what's going on. Every single time there's a ban wave, certain streamers disappear. Zlaner is one of them. Whether he's being robbed at gunpoint, whether he's moving house multiple times, whether or not he's upgrading his PC, whether or not there's a flood in his house, and so on. And they all aligned alongside a ban wave. Now, if he had a heads up for them ban waves coming, and somebody who optimizes his PC or upgrades his PC for him was fully clued up on the information I provided today, then all of that connected together could actually lead to these people evading bans. It's crazy to think, isn't it? But one thing I really want to express here today is that this is just one way. There has been a tech guy who's reached out to me and shown me another way where he's able to actually detect, even if all of the parts and components and everything like the MAC address has been replaced, that he would be able to determine it's the same user, even if this was all replaced. Now, this information may seem like gibberish to some of you, but go and check it out for yourselves. Honestly, this information could be vital. It could actually be the thing that's happening when all of these guys go dark, when they all go silent and take a couple of days off. Maybe something's happening while they're taking these days off during a ban wave where they're getting all their hardware replaced, where they're getting their MAC address replaced and so on. Think about it. Is it that far-fetched? So the question is, could it be the Zlaner and other streamers alike are getting a heads up that a ban wave's coming, so they decide to make excuses to take a couple of days off during those ban waves, knowing full well that a spoofer just won't cut it this time, and they can't spoof all their hardware ID, and they will have to replace everything, so they end up getting somebody who optimizes PCs to replace everything, sort their MAC address out, and then they come back online after this whole couple of days off due to whatever their excuse was, and they're back up running. Is that so hard to believe? We've seen people manipulating their viewers for a very long time, and some of them slipped up and showed the wall hacks. Some of them slipped up and locked onto the wrong person. Some of them slipped up and showed their cheat menu. We've seen the manipulation at all levels. Is it so hard to believe that some of these top streamers who are with big organizations, who are tied in with large sponsorships, who are whitelisted and COD partnered, could be getting this extra help in the background? I don't think it's that far-fetched. And guys, if you want to see any more footage of Zlaner cheating, check this video out here.